Right, let's dive straight into this explainer. We're looking at what is, without a doubt, one of the most dramatic, totally unexpected upsets in Women's World Cup history, the 2019 clash between Australia and Brazil. This wasn't just a football match. It was an absolute emotional roller coaster and, honestly, a total masterclass in psychological resilience. So we're going to break down the tactics, the wild milestones, and the sheer willpower it took to shatter a historic streak. Let's get into it. Now, think about this for a second. How would you even begin to approach a game like this? You're stepping onto the pitch against a team clothed in this 24-year aura of invincibility. It takes a perfect storm, really. Tactical adjustments, immense mental toughness, and capitalizing on the absolute tiniest margins of error. To truly wrap our heads around the stakes here, we really have to anchor on this number, 24. For nearly a quarter of a century, Brazil had been completely undefeated in World Cup group stages. I mean, you have to go all the way back to a loss against Germany 24 years prior to find the last time they dropped a group match. Entire generations of players came and went without ever experiencing a group stage defeat. That is the monolithic mountain Australia was staring down. Act 1, the dominant force. Let's start right at the beginning, where Brazil came out looking exactly like the invincible team they were hyped up to be, operating smoothly in Coach Vado's favored 4-4-2 formation. Look at this resume coming into the match. It's literally insane. They had won their last 10 group games without conceding a single goal, unbeaten in 16 total group matches, and they were feeling absolute legends. Actually, scratch that. Legends almost feels like an understatement when you're talking about someone like Formiga, who was out there playing in her staggering 7th World Cup at 41 years old. They were a perfectly well-oiled machine. And then there's Marta, 5. That is the number of separate World Cup finals she'd now scored in. Early on, Australia gave up a penalty, Marta stepped up to the spot, and just casually made history, becoming the first player, male or female, to ever score in 5 different World Cups. That confident penalty just added to an already stunning legacy. Her 16th World Cup goal, her 106th international goal overall. It's wild to think she was Brazil's youngest scorer back in 2003, and here she was today at 33, still effortlessly writing her name into the history books. So, things quickly go from bad to worse for the Aussies. Following a wonderfully worked build-up, Christiane flawlessly guides a header into the corner, grabbing her 4th goal of the tournament. Bam! 2-0, Brazil. Honestly, at this exact moment, if you're pulling for Australia, you're probably thinking it's game over. A 2-goal deficit against a team that hasn't conceded in their last 10 group matches, it felt totally insurmountable. Act 2, a crucial first-half lifeline. Because, as we know, football matches can flip completely in the blink of an eye. We're deep in first-half stoppage time. Australia's looking desperate, practically begging for the halftime whistle. But then, a flick on in the box, and Caitlin Ford manages to poke it in for her very first World Cup goal. It was a massive, massive lifeline right before the break. And more than the point on the board, it proved to the players that this Brazilian defense could in fact be breached. Tracking the timeline of events really highlights the wild swings of that first half. You've got the confident Brazilian start, Marta's historic penalty, Christiane doubling it up, and then, crucially, Ford's stoppage time goal. Going into the dressing room down 2-0 would have been devastating, but going in down 2-1, that fundamentally shifts the psychology. Suddenly, they had hope. Act 3, the second-half equalizer, and, you guessed it, VAR drama. Coming out of the locker room, Coach Ante Milicic had his squad fired up. They had that little bit of belief, and Brazil's defense was starting to show cracks under the physical pressure. In the second half, Chloe Logarza sends this early ball in from out wide. And incredibly, it travels all the way through a crowded penalty area and just nestles right into the bottom corner. You can practically hear the breathless commentary. Just like that, from 2-0 down, Australia had fought all the way back to 2-all. Now, it wasn't just a lucky bounce. There's an absolute art to creating that kind of chaos. First, Logarzo sends the ball in, but step 2 is where the magic really happens. Australia's superstar Sam Kerr makes this daring run. She doesn't even get a touch on it, but her sheer physical presence acts as a massive decoy. It completely blinds the Brazilian goalkeeper, Barbara, who is totally unsighted and beaten. Brilliant, calculated tactical disruption. Okay, so the game is miraculously tied. The momentum has completely shifted. But an equalizer isn't a win, right? So how does an underdog navigate pure chaos to actually finish the job and secure a historic victory? Enter the VAR, the video assistant referee. In a match of this magnitude, with history literally hanging in the balance, VAR was about to determine the fate of a frantic, game-changing play that initially looked like an Australian offside. Here is the exact sequence of the drama. Step 1. Kerr hooks the ball into the box. Step 2. The offside flag immediately goes up on the far side. Heartbreak for Australia, right? But hold on. Step 3. VAR steps in, reviews the tape closely, and realizes the ball actually deflected off Brazil's defender, Monica. Because it came off a Brazilian player, the offside is negated. Step 4. Own goal given. Unbelievable. Australia takes a 3-2 lead out of nowhere.
The final minutes were just a fascinating study in contrasting mindsets. On one side, Brazil is completely unraveling, racking up yellow cards for Formiga, Andressa Alves, and Luana out of sheer frustration as they desperately try to win the ball back. On the flip side, steadfast Australian resilience. Goalkeeper Lydia Williams, playing in her milestone 80th cap no less, was an absolute brick wall, punching away danger to protect that razor-thin lead.
When that final whistle finally blew, it was pure historic emotion. They did what absolutely nobody had managed to do since Germany 24 years prior. They beat Brazil in a group stage match. They shattered the streak through sheer grit, tactical bravery, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. So, I'll leave you with this final, thrilling thought to chew on. We often look at these monumental records, like 24 years without a loss, and treat them as permanent facts of reality. But if a 2-decade-long invincible streak can be completely shattered in just 90 chaotic minutes of football, well, is any record in sports truly unbreakable? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the impossible.